We wanted to build a muzzleloader here at Best of the West, and but there was a couple challenges that we really wanted to take care of. One was the accuracy. I really wasn't satisfied with the accuracy that you typically get out of a muzzleloader. And the other thing is we wanted to do something different in terms of the ignition, something more convenient, because that's part of the problem is you know, which pocket did I put my primers in, where did they go, or are they dry, and you know, how does that all work? So we basically came up with kind of the inverse of the Remington Ultimate, in that it's a solid brass primer, but what makes it different is you can load the magazine. So we're using it's a Remington footprint action, and then we've developed a magazine that feeds these primers, so you can load the magazine with these primers. And when you're ready to shoot, you just open the bolt, close it, and it puts a primer into the breech plug for you. So it keeps 3 of them there. You don't have to remember where they're at. Keeps most of the rain off of them and the elements and that kind of thing. And it just does make it a lot more convenient. No, just to verify that the turret's doing what it's supposed to do, the rifle's doing what it's supposed to do. Everything's good, and honestly, it's fun. I mean, it's kind of fun to poke that far, especially with a smoke pole. You know, that's something that doesn't happen very often.
Welcome to the R&A Outdoors podcast, fueled by Ripcord Arrow Rest and First Light Hunting Apparel. At R&A, we are public land DIY conservationists that love to share our passion for the outdoors. So join us and our team as we interview professionals in the industry to share insight knowledge that helps make hunters and anglers more successful. Hey listeners, subscribers, and fellow outdoorsmen and women. This is your host, Lucas Paw, and I'm excited to tell you about some of the sponsors that continue to help make this podcast not only happen, but grow and thrive in this digital world of audio content. This podcast is brought to you by Ripcord Arrow Rest, the bow hunter's #1 fall-away rest on the market. Ripcord is known for 100% full-time arrow containment and their patented drop-dead brake system that eliminates launcher bounce back. Best of all, Ripcord is backed by their rock-solid guarantee. If the original owner has a part break for any reason, it will be repaired or replaced at no charge. And did I mention? Ripcord is located in southwest Montana, where all their products are made with pride in America. Check them out at ripcordarrowrest.com and on their social media feeds. This podcast is brought to you by First Light Clothing and Hunting Apparel. Born in the Rockies in central Idaho, First Light's mission is to create simple, yet proven, versatile gear that provides comfort and performance in any situation while working to promote the pursuit of ethical hunting and stewardship. I recently joined the First Light Pro Staff team and have continued to be impressed year after year in their innovations in engineering of merino wool fabrics. 10 years ago, they started putting out wool fabrics with camo patterns, and immediately this changed the game. Since then, they offer multiple layering systems and kits in various proprietary patterns and continue to raise the bar with their competition. Find them online at firstlight.com or under their social media feeds. Go farther, stay longer.
All right, LP.
You guys good?
We're at the Salt Lake Show, Sportsman's Expo. No. What is this called now?
This is the Western Hunting Conservation Expo, I believe, isn't it?
Western Hunting Exposition. Whatever.
Not the exposition, but okay. All right, we're here at the Best of the West booth here in Salt Lake City at the Western Hunt Expo, joined by Mr. Jason Quick of the NRA. Welcome back, Jason.
Yeah, having fun. talking about guns.
So we've actually done a podcast with Huskamaw in the past. Jim Sessions, we sat down with him a couple years ago and talked about kind of the history of the company. We're fortunate here today to be with Landon Gines, who is on the pro staff for Best of the West and also one of their gunsmiths, and really is probably more or less the inner workings behind a lot of the rifles here at Best of the West, but specifically this muzzleloader that everyone's talking about and been shooting out to 1,000 yards. We wanted to talk to Landon a little bit about kind of the design and how that comes together. But before we do that, well, Landon, we want to welcome you to the show, so welcome to the podcast.
No, thanks, man. Yeah, thanks. Glad to be here.
Yeah, maybe, Landon, just tell us maybe a little bit about you in terms of your history with Best of the West and kind of how all that started.
Sure. I had a gun shop here in Ogden, Utah for about 10 years and got on their pro staff, and then they came to us and said, "Look, we've got more demand than what we can handle, and we'd like you to come join our team." So I joined the team about 3 years ago, and I've been working on muzzleloaders and rifles and that kind of thing since.
Awesome.
So it's been great.
Yeah, and Best of the West, I mean, they've been making guns and rifles for obviously years. I have a setup. I have a system, a 7-mag system, which Jason twisted my arm into me doing.
Landon,
that.
you saw how I bring people in, and I'm like, "Hey, Dave, by the way, you should buy it now."
You really need one of these.
You need one of these. You need one of these scopes.
Dave the heckler is not heckling right now. He'll be heckling later.
He's probably mad because he just spent money, but he'll be happy when he figures out what that thing will do for him.
Oh no, we like spending somebody else's money, but yeah, the systems, in my opinion, the Huskamaw optic scope is really the key to success. But Landon, what you've done is you actually, after so many years, you got back into black powder again. So
sure.
How did that develop?
Well, we wanted to build a muzzleloader here at Best of the West, and but there was a couple challenges that we really wanted to take care of. One was the accuracy. I really wasn't satisfied with the accuracy that you typically get out of a muzzleloader, and the other thing is we wanted to do something different in terms of the ignition, something more convenient, because that's part of the problem. Is which pocket did I put my primers in? Where did they go? Or are they dry? And how does that all work? So we wanted to do something a little different that way. So we basically came up with kind of the inverse of the Remington Ultimate, in that it's a solid brass primer, but what makes it different is you can load the magazine. So we're using it's a Remington footprint action, and then we've developed a magazine that feeds these primers, so you can load the magazine with these primers. And when you're ready to shoot, you just open the bolt, close it, and it puts a primer into the breech plug for you. So it keeps 3 of them there. You don't have to remember where they're at. Keeps most of the rain off of them and the elements and that kind of thing. And it just does make it a lot more convenient.
Sorry, Landon, I'm playing with your gun, and I just put one in, closed the action, and as I pulled it back out, it did just like an action would. It flipped out your primer design completely out.
Sure.
So this is a proprietary. You've got a patent.
Yep, it's patented. Yep.
Well, this is actually pretty cool. I know everybody can't see what I'm holding in my hand, but if you can imagine it, it looks like an actual cartridge, but it's closed down. And then what kind of a primer do you use?
So it's a large rifle Magnum primer.
Okay.
Yep, we just prime that in there, and the system comes with all the priming tools, the depriming tools. So these little inserts are reusable between 7 and 15 times.
Wow.
Depending on how clean you keep them and that kind of thing. But yeah, you can reuse them.
And you said then you could put so I'm a real life hunting situation. Instead of having a pocket full of primers on a black powder gun, I take 3 of these, because you said the magazine well actually holds 3,
yep.
And you just load it in like you would any other gun, so you would have 3 in there at all times.
Yep.
And then when you close the action, it's sealed.
Yeah.
So I mean,
yep.
No different than a rifle. I mean, when it's raining and snowing and bad elements,
sure.
All of a sudden now you've got all your stuff. That's actually genius.
Contained.
I mean, if you really think about it.
Yeah, it works a lot like a compression fitting. So when you cam the bolt down, it actually compresses the brass a little bit, so you get no blow by. There's no junk coming back in your face, no gases, that kind of stuff. It gives it a nice clean seal, and yeah, it works out really well.
So talking about the side discharge brake, maybe talk a little bit about how that kind of disperses like a lot of the smoke again,
sure.
To allow maybe line of sight, or even if you got to get under the rifle for a second shot.
Sure. Well, that was one of the things. So with the bullet design that we've got, we're running bullet to bore. So there's no sabot in there. So not having a sabot gives us the opportunity to run a real muzzle brake.
Sure.
We don't have to compensate for that sabot. The pedals coming out and getting lodged or anything like that. So we can run a real muzzle brake that that cuts. You know, we're guessing, you know, 35 to 40%.
Wow. Wow. So that's a big number.
It's a big chunk of the recoil that it cuts right out of there. And with it being a side discharge, like you said, most of the smoke goes out the side. So you can really, you know, the visibility is a lot know,
sure.
The muzzleloader.
For target acquisition on a second shot, it allows that.
Right.
Especially with having 40% brake.
Yeah.
Now I do know that some states don't allow the whole Monte like this, but do you know off the top of your head which states this setup is legit for?
You know, there's only about four states in the western U.S. that don't like it. Idaho and I think
Oregon, I know, is
Oregon, Washington,
on
those guys. The rifle is okay in most other states. It's the optics that's
it's having optics on a muzzleloader.
Kind of tricky. So we do have an optic or an open sight system that's with a globe front sight and a veneer type rear sight that still gives you the precision, but it's within those rules. And really the biggest market for these is back east, because there's a lot of states back there where you can only hunt with the rifle or with a shotgun or a muzzleloader, and so yeah, there's a lot of states back east that this is. We sell the heck out of them back there.
That's funny, because of course, being from the West, I'm thinking, okay, well, boy, New Mexico, baby, I want to draw on Ibex tag. This would be a fantastic Ibex gun.
Sure.
You know, or I was thinking New Mexico elk, or, you know, I mean, there's a few other places that I was thinking, man, it'd be interesting. And it is, for all intensive purposes, you still have to put the powder down the barrel. You still have to go ahead and plunge. I see you have rods and everything. You have to plunge the bullet down. Now, are you running any specific bullet?
So we use a Parker bullet.
Okay.
And it's but like I said, we run it bullet to bore, so we have to take the bullet and process it. We size them down and put a little knurl on there and make it, you know, specific to our system.
To make it more precise.
To make it more precise. We use a button rifle, or excuse me, a cut rifled barrel, and to get the precision so that we can have basically one bullet that works in all of our rifles. So there has to be a very specific bullet for it to work in all of our rifles.
In terms of like BC and kinetic energy, I mean, how does a muzzleloader maintain that type of kinetic energy and muzzle velocity out of a muzzleloader? It's incredible that these things can shoot 800 to 1,000 yards and still maintain 1,000 pounds of kinetic energy.
Sure. Just the BC. I mean, the BC is right around. It's not quite 0.4.
Okay.
So the BC is pretty high. The bullet weight's up there a little bit, you know, which contributes to the BC. And so yeah, that's the biggest thing, and the velocity is the other thing. Going bullet to bore without the sabot, it lets us. We get a lot more velocity out of it. The sabot kind of limits you on how much velocity you can get. So with the charge that we're running and this bullet, you know, we're getting around 2350 or so, and I think with this, I mean, I know with this same charge and a sabot, you wouldn't even get close to that.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know of many muzzleloaders on the market that are doing that, right? That are able to shoot out to 1,000 yards and still maintain that velocity.
Sure.
And I think that's what people are probably listening to this going, they're saying 800 and 1,000, and they're saying 800 and 1,000.
Sure.
And I know people that are thinking muzzleloaders are thinking, these guys must be...
These guys are nuts.
Yeah, these guys must be nuts,
How are they
right?
doing this?
Because that's just not realistic in most muzzleloader applications.
Right, and honestly and realistically, from a hunting perspective, we wouldn't tell anybody that they should be hunting at that distance with these rifles. I mean, they're just not built for that. The accuracy is there, so we guarantee they'll shoot, you know, a minute at one ammo away, which is, you know, 10 inches at 1,000 or 1 inch at 100. But the limitations, the realistic limitations here are the wind. You know, we tell everybody you can shoot as far as you can dope the wind. Yeah. And with these bullets, with the BC, as high as it is, it still takes a lot of wind. And so at 400 yards, a 10-mile-an-hour wind is going to push you, you know, 4 or 5 minutes almost, and which is, you know, dang near 20 inches. So you really have to have a good grasp on the wind to be able to push this to its, you know, to its limits. I don't recommend. I mean, I myself, I won't shoot past about 400, maybe 500 yards. If conditions are perfectly breedable, I still won't shoot that far, just because I'm not comfortable with with what the wind's doing. There's
Sure.
so much that can happen out there, and you
Which
just
is
don't
the
want to
one
take a chance.
variable in any of the systems, right? That you have to overcome. The elevation's one thing, which we built into the scopes, but the windage is always the variable that you just have to be a proficient shooter.
Right.
So I always tell everybody, everybody always, almost every time I go on a hunt and I pull my rifle out, and of course I go and do a couple of test shots to make sure that my rifle and I are in agreement with what's going to happen at the elevation or the location that I'm shooting at. But almost every time I do, people come up to me and go, well, how far do you think you could shoot? And I said, well, I can shoot a long ways. Mm-hmm. And they kind of always like mock me, right? Well, a lot of times I'll say, well, I practice at 6, 8, and sometimes up to 1,000 yards. And they're like, oh my God, 1,000 yards. And then they look at you like, you've come from a different planet, right? But a lot of times when I test my gun, when I get to the location, I shoot in between. I like to shoot 600 yards. That's what I usually look around for a place to test, at least 600 yards. But sometimes I'll send one out at 9 just to see what the environment is doing. Because a lot of times coming from sea level, you end up in the top mountains. But you're 100% right. When it comes to wind, that changes everything. I mean, we were in Nevada 2 years ago, and the wind was howling like crazy. And my son, who's 14, doesn't understand the olden days. He just thinks, oh, well, anything underneath 1,000 yards, we'll just kill it, I mean, but when the wind
Kids are so desensitized now.
Right.
When the wind was blowing.
Right.
The days of 200-yard shots were long, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
because the wind was blowing so hard, I told him, I said, man, I held the wind meter up, and I'm like, you're looking at 30, sometimes 40 miles an hour. I said, we're going to have to cut the distance to, 300 yards or less. And he's just like, wow. I mean, we took 4 hours to cut that distance, to get into that bubble. But because of the wind, the deer was in a pocket. He couldn't hear us. I mean, my son fell twice. I mean, we made all kinds of noise. I mean, we couldn't have got away with that before.
Sure.
But man, doping the wind is tough, and the bigger your bullet, usually the harder the wind blows on it. But still, now that people have heard us say 800 and 1,000, if you were just out practicing, you don't mind sending a couple out there at those distance to get confident, right?
Just to verify that the turret's doing what it's supposed to do, the rifle's doing what it's supposed to do, everything's good, and honestly, it's fun. I mean, it's kind of fun to poke that far, especially with a smoke pole. That's something doesn't happen very often. But like I said, when you really get down to it.
Well, when you practice at 600 and 800 yards, when an animal pops up at 300, like you told my friend Dave, who just bought a scope, it's like just point and pull the trigger. I mean, it's almost kind of. You kind of feel a little bit like, well, this is too easy kind of thing.
Sure.
But that's the whole name of the game. No different than Tiger Woods. I'm sure he doesn't practice putting, at 2 foot all the time. He's got to practice at 10 and 20 so that when he gets the 2 foot one, it's a chip shot, no pun intended.
Yep.
Landon, looking at the muzzleloader, what scope options are available if someone was to want to purchase one of these?
So the standard scope is the 4-16.
Okay.
I feel like that's a good
representation for that.
Right. I think it gives you enough distance and enough power and that kind of thing. Really, the 3-12 isn't bad either. I mean, it just depends on what you're comfortable with. If you're the first prototype that we had, the first prototype rifle, I had a 5-30 on it, just because that's what I happened to have sitting closest to me, and that's what I put on to go hunting with. And people looked at me like I was crazy, and rightly so. I mean, really, that's a lot of scope for a muzzleloader, but it's what I had convenient, and for testing purposes, the 30 power wasn't bad. But
so this with a 4-16, what's that gun weigh?
So with this one is 10 pounds. 10 pounds and an ounce or something like that. So
for a long distance gun, that's a really great weight.
So it really isn't bad. And for the muzzleloader, the muzzleloaders buck a little bit, so the weight doesn't hurt you. For those that are hunting and packing in a lot further, we've got a lighter weight version that we've just introduced. That one's right at 8 pounds, and it's carbon barrel.
Is that the carbon fiber one right here?
Yeah, it's carbon barrel and carbon stock.
And that definitely does feel.
Yeah,
Here, heckler.
We shaved quite a bit of weight off. Carbon fiber ramrod and
Don't worry, you've put your deposit down. We'll work on the rest of it later. Well, Landon, that is cool stuff, man. I kept telling Jim if I actually draw a moose tag, I want to shoot my moose with one of your smoke poles.
Oh yeah.
Because I just think that would be another one of those things that's like, this is too cool to talk about.
Sure.
What other thing, is there anything else that you've done to your particular muzzleloader? Because this ignition system and the actual gun is kind of your baby, your creation.
Yeah, it is.
Is there anything else that we haven't talked about that you just go, oh, you guys got to know this?
Those are the big points. Like I said, the priming system and that, I'm other than that, I mean, it's a lot of the other components are, I mean, it's...
Well, it's all little pieces that make the whole, right? I mean,
it is.
You can't just have the primer system on a normal rinky-dink thing to make the primer system worth anything.
Right. It is a whole system. Like I said, every part was kind of designed around the other parts, and so yeah, it is. I'm kind of drawing a blank in terms of other.
Well, the thought of just, I mean, a muzzleloader that'll shoot like this, it opens up so many more options. So if you're an archery guy, but you don't draw an archery tag, you're looking at a muzzleloader season in a lot of these units. It just opens up so many more opportunities, and to have something that shoots more than 200 yards at best, which was a lot of the muzzleloader black powder rifles in the past, it definitely gives a lot more options to hunters out there.
Right. Well, draw odds are so much better, and hunting conditions typically are a lot better, and I mean, it's not a competition, but it's nice to have a little bit of an edge on some of the other guys that,
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the dates for a lot of the muzzleloader seasons are right in some of the prime times of, like, some of the elk seasons are just in great time. Late September, early October, which you're still have the opportunity to maybe hunt, like elk in a rut with a muzzleloader. So it gives you a lot of different opportunities.
That's what you and I, Lucas, on the drive up, we're talking about New Mexico elk, and we were looking at the dates. And we're like, ooh, muzzleloader, and then you're looking at the odds, and you're like, actually, the odds were better than the archery tags.
Really?
So we're like, oh man, this might be a sneaky way to slip in and really pull something off that most people wouldn't think you could.
Sure.
So Landon, let's say a guy buys a rifle like this but has no idea how to shoot it. Do you guys provide classes? What do you guys do for people that are out of the box?
Sure. If they want to come out, they can come out to Cody or Ogden. I'm in Ogden, Ogden, Utah. They can come out and we'll walk them through. We've got a range. We'll take them out and show them how the whole system works, how all the details, and it really is a pretty simple system. So it's not like you don't have to come out. We've got a very thorough owner's manual that goes through every facet of what you need to know here, but absolutely, they can come out and we'll take them to the range. And
so, I mean, out of the box, a guy can buy one of these, have it set up, and be ready to go and shoot, and probably, I mean, within no time if he's got a tight deadline on a hunt.
Absolutely. In fact, we've literally shipped these to outfitters, and the client has flown into to camp, and the rifle's there waiting for him, and one guy killed his deer with the second shot out of the rifle. They verified it with one shot on paper to make sure it was there.
Wow.
And he went out and killed his deer at 300 and something yards with the very next shot out of the rifle.
Wow. So, yeah, I mean, with a muzzleloader, there's obviously not load development like you would do for like one of your standard rifle series.
Right. All that's done.
That's already done and out of the box. So.
Yeah, they're all verified too. We take every rifle before it ships, and we shoot them all out to 700 yards and make sure that the data is right, the turret is right, everything's functioning correctly, and everything's doing what it's supposed to. So.
Well, I'll tell you, I mean, I didn't know that you weren't shooting sabots, and you're right. Talk about the extra added benefits, not plugging up your muzzle brake and or the actual bullet touching the actual rifling to get that extra accuracy level that you're talking about. Now that you've explained that to me, and man, that's really exciting stuff.
Sure.
So that's a hell of a. Now is that copper or is that lead?
It's a copper jacketed bullet.
Okay, copper jacketed bullet.
Mm-hmm. And what's the grain on that bullet?
It's 327.
Okay.
Yeah, that's pushing.
Wow. 327.
That's a lot of energy there.
That's a big chunk when it hits. When it hits, that whatever it hits is gonna.
It's a freight train, man.
I was gonna say, when that hits that moose that I want to draw that tag, that's definitely gonna do the job that I'm looking for.
Is there a specific powder that's used as well for this?
Yeah, there is. So we use the Blackhorn 209.
Okay.
It's a great powder. It burns very clean. That's one of the other benefits that we've found with this. Using the Blackhorn 209, and we can shoot 10 to 15 rounds without cleaning in between, which is unheard of with black powder.
Amazing.
You're one or two shots, so it really doesn't change your point of impact. It doesn't change how hard it is to load. The Blackhorn's just clean enough that, like I said, you don't have to worry about that. So it's another convenience that's added to it.
That's killer. I might have to just come out and I manage Utah, so I might have to come out and talk to you in Utah, Ogden, you said,
sure,
right?
Yeah.
And,
yeah, absolutely. Come on up.
Get the full rundown on that, man. That is a neat thing. Well, it's really cool, man. I really appreciate you taking the couple minutes with us to go over this. It is it is a lot of fun. I can't wait to actually give her a test drive, because I know the last time that happened, it ended up in another gun in my gun safe. Just don't tell my wife.
Well, it's like driving a car. Once you drive it, it's kind of like, I need to have that. Guns are no different.
Yep.
Well, Landon, thanks for jumping on with us and just sharing a little bit of history with the company, and also your design here with this muzzleloader. Clearly is a cutting-edge piece of equipment here that not a lot of companies have really broke into. So it's neat to understand a little better and pick your brain a little bit about the system. So
yeah, that's awesome. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, good luck at the show, and hopefully, is this one of the last shows you guys are doing? One of the bigger ones?
Yeah, it's one of the last ones of the season. So
gotcha. So then we can start focusing, thinking about hunting.
Yeah,
right.
Which is always good.
Try to draw a tag anywhere, somewhere, some town, get one, and then go hunting.
No, show season's fun. Connect with people, but once the show season's over, you're kind of ready to start thinking about itching out, get out of the winter, and start shooting again and getting after it. So.
Well, this has been cool. So we're at the Best of the West once again. If you guys ever get out to the shows, check them out. Come on out and check out the Huskma Optics and this brand new muzzleloader concept. It is killer.
Yeah,
can't wait to try it.
And check us out online. It's thelongrangestore.com, and there's lots of good stuff on there.
And you guys have a full online store, someone could go on and customize, buy stuff as needed online and all that.
Yep.
It's very cool. Customer service, if they had questions, they could go and contact you guys.
Absolutely. We've got some great customer service guys, and they're always willing to help. So
cool. Long Range Store, Huskma Optics. Check them out online.
Okay,
sweet.
Thanks,
Landon. Appreciate it, buddy.
All right, guys. Take care.
Signing off.
Hey everyone, this is Lucas Paw, host of the RNA Outdoors podcast. Please check out Podbean and iTunes. If you have an iPhone or iPad, go to the podcast app on your device, search for RNA Outdoors, and hit the purple subscribe button. When doing this, it will automatically upload when new podcasts are loaded, and they will download into your queue. For Android users, you can access the podcast through Podbean, Stitcher, or use our website, www.rnaoutdoors.com/podcast. In addition, under the RNA Outdoors podcast channel, please leave a review and a 5-star rating. These reviews help boost our popularity and outreach. You can also follow us on our social media outlets, Twitter at RNA Outdoors, Facebook, RNA Outdoors, and Instagram, Rod and Arrow Outdoors. All links are in the show notes as well. If you like what you've heard, we hope you'll pass along our channel to your friends and colleagues. Keep up the good fight. We cannot sit by and watch the public lands devoted to wildlife protection wither away. There's simply too much at stake. Make your voice heard, speak up, and get involved with conservation efforts, and know that every little bit helps. As we say on the mountain, go farther, stay longer.